She sat across the table, eyes down, voice shaking. "No one marries a fat girl, sir." He smiled softly and said, "Then let's prove them all wrong. What happened next will make you believe in love again. Watch till the end. This story will melt your heart. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more emotional real-life stories. Comment 'Love wins' if you believe true love sees beyond appearance." The restaurant lights glowed warmly against the rain-soaked windows, creating a soft, golden shimmer that danced across the polished tables. Ethan Cole had been to dozens of business dinners, board meetings, and corporate events, but tonight felt different. His hands fidgeted with the edge of the napkin as he checked his watch for the third time. This wasn't a meeting about profits or partnerships. It was a blind date. Something far more unpredictable. The thought made him strangely nervous. He'd built an empire through logic, confidence, and control, but love had never followed logic. It was something he couldn't plan, and that terrified him. Across town, Rachel stood in front of her mirror, taking one last deep breath. Her reflection stared back. A woman in her early 30s with kind eyes and soft curves. She'd spent most of her life being judged for her body, not her heart. Growing up, she'd learned to laugh off cruel comments, pretending they didn't hurt. But deep down, they did. Her best friend, tired of seeing her lonely, had set her up on this blind date. "He's different," she'd said. "Just give it a chance." So Rachel did. She put on her favorite navy dress, the one that made her feel like herself, and stepped into the night with cautious hope. When she entered the restaurant, the sound of soft jazz welcomed her. The air smelled of fresh bread and wine. Her eyes searched the tables until they landed on him, Ethan. He stood when he saw her, tall and confident, but with a disarming gentleness in his smile. "Hi, are you Ethan?" she asked, voice trembling slightly. "Yes," he said warmly, "and you must be Rachel." His tone was kind, not rehearsed. He pulled out her chair, and for the first time that evening, she felt at ease. They began to talk, and to Rachel's surprise, the conversation flowed naturally. They discovered a shared love for old movies, coffee at sunrise, and the strange comfort of bookstores. Ethan wasn't like the men she'd met before. He listened, really listened, and didn't look at her with pity or judgment. For a moment, she forgot her insecurities and simply existed in the warmth of connection. But as laughter filled the space between them, that small, cruel voice inside her returned, the one that told her she wasn't what anyone truly wanted. When Ethan complimented her laugh, Rachel's smile faltered. She looked down at her glass, her words trembling as they escaped. "You don't have to be nice," she whispered. "I know how people see me. No one marries a fat girl, sir." The air shifted. Ethan's smile faded, not in discomfort, but in quiet heartbreak. He saw the strength it took for her to say that, the years of pain wrapped inside one simple sentence. He leaned forward, lowering his voice. "Rachel," he said gently, "you're wrong about one thing. The right man doesn't care about size. He cares about heart." She blinked, unsure if she heard him right. "You don't mean that," she murmured. But Ethan didn't flinch. "Then let's prove them all wrong," he said softly, his eyes steady, full of sincerity. The words hit her deeper than she expected. For a moment, the noise of the restaurant faded. It was just the two of them, sitting across from each other, vulnerable and real. And then Rachel laughed, a genuine, unguarded laugh that came from somewhere deep inside. Ethan smiled, and it wasn't because he was being polite. It was because he saw something beautiful. Not in her appearance, but in her courage. That night didn't end with fireworks or grand gestures. It ended with two people walking out into the cold Chicago night, sharing one umbrella, talking like old friends. It wasn't a love story yet, but it was something better, the beginning of one. Sometimes love doesn't arrive in perfection. It starts in imperfection, in honesty, in the quiet moments where two hearts decide to believe again. ChatGPT said, weeks drifted by like a gentle rhythm neither of them wanted to end. Each morning, Rachel would wake up to a text from Ethan. A small message, sometimes just a good morning, sometimes a quote that made her smile. They started meeting more often. Morning walks in the park before work, coffee dates that turned into deep conversations and quiet evenings watching sunsets from the lakeside. Rachel, who once avoided mirrors and compliments, began to feel something she hadn't in years: peace. It wasn't the world's approval she needed anymore. It was the acceptance she was finally giving herself. Ethan never treated her like someone to fix, only someone to love. One Sunday afternoon, they walked hand in hand along the lakefront. The breeze was cool, carrying the scent of water and spring blossoms. Rachel wore a floral dress that swayed with each step, her laughter echoing over the waves. As they strolled, a group of young women passed by, whispering and giggling behind their hands. Rachel noticed, of course. She'd grown used to it. The looks, the judgment, the quiet laughter that followed her since childhood. She was about to look away when Ethan stopped walking. Without hesitation, he took her hand and lifted it to his lips, kissing it softly but deliberately, right there in front of everyone. "You're the most beautiful woman here," he said clearly, his voice calm but firm enough for those girls to hear. Rachel froze, her heart thundering in her chest. For a moment, the world went silent. The girls walked away awkwardly, their laughter gone. Rachel's face flushed deep red, but she couldn't stop smiling. That one gesture, simple, public, fearless, meant more than any grand declaration could. Ethan wasn't just loving her in private. He was choosing her in front of the world, and that made her feel like she finally belonged somewhere she didn't have to shrink. That evening, Ethan asked her to dress up for dinner. When she arrived at the restaurant, she gasped. It was the same place where they had first met. The same corner table, only now it was surrounded by candles and red roses. The memory of that night came flooding back. Her nerves, her doubt, her disbelief that anyone like him could ever look at her that way. Ethan stood as she approached, smiling. "I wanted to bring us back," he said softly, "to the night everything changed." Rachel laughed, tears already in her eyes. "You mean the night you proved me wrong?" she teased. Ethan shook his head slowly. "No," he said, reaching for her hand. "The night you proved yourself wrong." Then he reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. Her breath caught as he opened it. Inside was a simple gold ring, elegant and perfect. The room seemed to fade around them as he looked into her eyes. "Rachel," he said, his voice trembling slightly, "will you let me love you for who you are? Every inch, every laugh, every dream?" Rachel covered her mouth, tears spilling freely. Her heart felt like it was bursting with gratitude, disbelief, and joy all at once. "Yes," she whispered, her voice breaking. "Yes, I will." A year later, under a canopy of soft lights and white flowers, Rachel stood in her wedding gown, radiant, confident, beautiful. The woman who once doubted her worth was now dancing in the arms of the man who saw it from the very beginning. As their first song played, she looked up into Ethan's eyes and said softly, "You kept your promise." Ethan smiled, brushing away a tear that slid down her cheek. "No," he said, "we did." That night, as they danced under the stars, Rachel realized the truth she'd spent her whole life searching for. Love doesn't ask you to change. It simply reminds you that you were already enough.